It's a wild and windy afternoon in North London as Halifax take on the London Scholars in the first competitive match of the season in the Northern Rail Cup, beg your pardon. And this return fixture will be played in 7 days' time at the Shea, where we'll be hoping for a bit more like summer weather. The teams this afternoon as they line up: London Scholars with no fewer than 7 of the new recruits. Dean Callis at fullback is one of them. Austin Agri, Stuart Singleton, Tim G and Ashley Tozer are the 3 quarters. Jermaine Coleman, who spent some time in the junior ranks at Halifax, is at number 6, partnering Gareth Honor. At scrum half, Rupert Yonkers, Kurt Pittman, Toby Hall, Andrew Goulet, Richard Singleton, Troy Shea. At the forwards, Wayne Parallon, Nathan Mishka, if I pronounce that right, Nathan G and Mike Castle are on the bench, and the Scholars will bring the ball away from Halifax, kicking off in the first half. And Halifax will be looking to continue where they left off against Oldham in what was really only the proper friendly that Halifax had. Anthony Farrell disappointed that they couldn't squeeze Blackpool in between, and the referee Jamie Leahy is going to give a penalty as tempers become frayed in the opening minutes. Andy Hobson going in hard, which he normally does anyway. Kick doesn't reach touch, fielded by Sharif, but the ball comes back. Referee Jamie Lee still giving out his reasons as to why the penalty was awarded, and this time the ball put into touch. Halifax this afternoon with plenty of new recruits in their lineup in the first real competitive match. Damien Gibson at fullback, Ricky Sharif, James Bunyan, Alan Adcroft and James Haley. 3 quarters, Danny Jones in for the injured Dean Lawford, and Ben Black at half back as Scholars knock on under a big tackle from Wisner, Andy Hobson, Ben Fisher, Jason Bolts. In for Big McDonald, who's out, still suffering problems with the arm. David Larder, Andy Spink and Pat Wisner, the back 3 of the scrum. Anthony Blackwood, impressive 2-try performance against Oldham and laid on another 2. Gareth Greenwood, a late addition to the squad. Chris Birchall and John Simpson on the bench. Anthony Farrell looking for the big men to play on the bench. Anthony Blackwood, a second rower, but showed up well at centre in that match against Oldham. As Andy Spink gets up, I think Andy Spink plays the ball. Looks very much like Alan Adcroft. Halifax just trying to get the ball into the Scholars half with David Larder. The Scholars pinching yards as soon as the ball's played, but Halifax sending the forwards in to do the work on the last tackle to Wisner, who will test the winger on the far side. The ball is hanging about in the wind. Halifax make the chase, put the winger under pressure. Sharif, the last man to get up from the 3-man tackle, and that is a tremendous tackle there, and it looked like Pat Wisner who was setting the lead, and that was an awesome tackle from, well, it's James Bunyan actually. Unlike Davy Spink and Alan Adcroft from this far away, James Bunyan and Pat Wisner are not dissimilar. Scholars forced to drop out. Ben Black gives it inside to Andy Spink again, the former Batley player, who is looking to form a potent partnership with David Larder this season. Both men standout players at their respective clubs of Batley and Leigh last season. Hobson drops off the inside ball and takes Halifax to within 10 of that Scholars line. Ben Black, chances here. Bunyan manages to get the ball away, and James Haley will turn back inside on the step, put the ball down. Scholars put to the test on the first Halifax attack, and they have no resistance. But once again, Halifax using the forwards as the platform. Bullocking run from Andy Hobson up the middle, and the ball being moved out wide. Smart passing. Haley still had work to do when he got the ball, but stepped inside the defence, and that's the first 4 points on the board for Halifax as the wind, I think, increases in strength. Halifax playing into the wind in the first half, points go to James Haley, one of the quickest men, I would imagine, in the whole of the National League One, not just in the Halifax camp. Danny Jones will try and add on the extras. 9 metres in from the touchline. Plenty of area between the posts to look at against the wind. Pulls it round and pulls it round too far. Halifax supporters applauding that one prematurely. But Halifax off the mark. Halifax 4, London Scholars 0. Well, not really a match of any great significance, other than it could be a minor embarrassment for Halifax. Should they go on to lose this match, it'd be a big scalp for the London Scholars if they manage to win. Team loaded, of course, with a lot of Australians from minor clubs like the Ipswich Jets, 1 or 2 from the New Zealand Barter card competition, not the equivalence of the Alliance competition in this country. And Fisher up from acting half, pushes London back again, and the chase once again is good on the Scholars 10. Fisher making the tackle after his own chase, and Dean Callis earning himself the penalty for a bit of overacting under the tackle from Fisher, with the arms and legs flailing about. And this the only way at the moment that the Scholars are getting away from their own line. A couple of penalties in their favour. And once again, strong tackling. Jason Bolts, the former Bradford man, in first. Scholars up to the 40, not making much ground forward since they played the ball. They've only made about 10 metres so far, and they're not going to improve in that with the tenacity of the Halifax tackling. Now they look to move it out wide. Coleman looks for a space, but he's put far too much on that one, and James Haley will watch that run, touching goal, and come back to the 20 metre line for a tap. Jason Bolts again in the action, this time running the ball up. Sharif just kicking up a bit of water there. There's been a lot of rain over all the country in the last couple of days. Horrendous conditions for those that saw the match between Lee and Huddersfield yesterday, although Lee tends to cut up worse than any other ground, and this could do the same this afternoon. Good ball from Jones off to Spink, and Spink looks for support, hadn't gone to ground, so he managed to get it away. Referee's going to give a knock on for a ball that looked to go backwards. And when it went on the floor, it looked to roll backwards. But referee Jamie Leahy from Dewsbury has given the Scholars the advantage on a very short 30 to 40 area, and yet the 20 metre line looks a big 20 out from the try line. Here comes the big centre, Stuart Singleton, but the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Hardcroft solid in defence, as are his teammates now, as the Scholars are driven back, once again struggling to make yards. Hobson, Black and Bunyan in that one. Well, surely that'll come as a knock on. Late call there from the referee. Looked as though he was waiting to see what happened, but no advantage. Halifax will get the put-in at the scrum. And it's certainly an impressive display in defence by Halifax so far in this first half, as Gibson joins the line from full-back and gets it out to Sharif, and Sharif skips past the winger. No flag from the touch judge. That's the second try for Halifax, and the forwards are impressive in attack and defence. but so the backs in attack. As the ball went out wide, Gibson beating the man, put the ball out at the right time for Sharif to beat the winger. And I'm not sure the winger stood much chance as he went in, because I think he slipped before he actually got to Sharif, who was left to skip round in at the corner, 3 metres in from the touchline. Second try, one apiece for the wingers. This one for Sharif. Halifax 8, London Scholars 0. And despite the bitterly cold conditions, Halifax supporters have seen enough to warm them up so far in the early minutes of this game. 12 minutes gone. Danny Jones left with another difficult kick, this time from the other side of the field. Being a left footer, it's not really on the right side for him, but he's found the range and he's found the target. Put the ball over, Halifax into double figures. Tremendous kick from Jones. Halifax 10, London Scholars 0. Callis it is that kicks off. Andy Spink it is that picks up and drives the ball back into the Scholars defence, who I think have managed to get into the Halifax half for over the second time in this game, and both times it's been to tackle. Not even threatening the Halifax line as yet. Jason Bolts once again a willing runner. Scholars putting 3 there in defence with a big prop down on the 30 metre line. Black gives it to Hobson, once again looking to cause problems for this Scholars defence, and he does as he makes 12 metres. Black to Jones. Jones with the ball out and Wisner running on, but the London defence moving in quickly. Last tackle. Jones will kick down the touchline, and if that one stays by the line, and the fullback's actually dropped it behind the line, he saw Sharif bearing down on him, and so Jones' kick has turned into a potential 6-pointer for Halifax if they play the 6 tackles out. Fullback was under pressure from the runners, but he still, I think, would have had time to pick the ball up and get it back in the field of play. But Danny Jones judging the bounce perfectly to hold the ball up just over the try line. As Spink bounces off 2 players and then carries on, and he's fancies to go at the whole London Scholars forward pack there. Hobson charging in, and he really is causing some damage. He's Andy Hobson, as are the rest of the forwards when they're going forward. Jones cut out pass, missed out, and Adcroft has to turn back inside. Ball goes loose. Ben Blanc took his eye off it there, I think. Ball goes to ground and Ben Black makes the tackle. But we'll keep the Scholars in the same place for the second play. Black looks for the next one as well. Well, making up for the drop ball. He's off again, he's Black. He must be making all 6 on his own this time. And the Scholars are still in the place that they actually got the ball from when it came out of Ben Black's hands there. And back into the defensive line for a bit of a break now, the scrum half. He tackled 3 forwards, he probably deserves a break. But the rest of his teammates getting on with the job of restricting the Scholars' attack, and I think they've made about 5 metres. And the kick off the top. Bunyan manages to collect it from an awkward bounce and under pressure from Coleman. And I'm not sure the Scholars' defence was stood in line there. Split very quickly as James Aylett carries it up to the 40 metre line. Wisner, that could be a 40-20, I'm sure it will be if that ball goes into touch. Well, it comes up with him, does Wisner. And that's got to be a 40-20, and it is. Referee just awaiting confirmation from his touch judge. A tremendous kick from Wisner. Puts the Scholars on the back foot again. 10 metres away from their own line. Halifax with the putting at the scrum and 6 to go. Well, I said that last time, and the ball came loose from Ben Black. Feeds the scrum, comes up at the back as runners cut out pass. Halifax push the line and push the luck in slippery conditions. Gibson up again from full-back, and Gibson trying to force his way through, and he must be only inches away from the line there, the full-back. Sharif inside. Halifax looking for a little bit more room in which to work. Now they swing the ball across to this side of the field. Wisner puts the kick through, and Ailey could be the first man onto it, but the London Scholars number 5, Ashley Tozer, another one of the new recruits, just got fingertips to it. Before James Ailey got there, but it was another good kick from Wisner. Wisner and Jones kicks, testing the Scholars defence. Big Gibson that's underneath this one, closely followed by Spink, who gets the short pass and drives the ball all the way back up to the London 20. Jones to Wisner, slipping, but that helped his course as he came back inside and probably made a few more metres out of that. I think that's David Larder. Both Larder and Spink used as extra centres as Hobson goes back off the inside ball. And he's brought down 5 metres away. London defending well so far as Black gets it away. Gibson linking up, but Halifax can't find a gap. So Halifax will look to put pressure on. The referee has seen a knock on the 6th tackle, or the last tackle, and so it'll be a turnover. The London Scholars once again find themselves trying to take the ball away from their own line. Something they've done, and they've hit a solid wall of defence yet again before even making the 20. So Bolts and Fisher drive in to the tackle. Halifax having trouble putting the man down there. They get him down in the end. Scrum half gives the short ball. Gareth Honor. And number 3, Stuart Singleton, I think it is, who's making yards. Now there's something could happen here when Sharif gets the ball, but not on this occasion. He's put down Gibson, doing the work of the forwards. Takes the ball up to halfway. Hobson running back off the inside ball again and not taking it with him. So that'll be a scrum down. Gareth Honor not wanting to put the ball in. Has another crack. Halifax move up quickly in the shape of Jones, too quickly for the referee's liking, so that'll be a 3rd penalty to the London Scholars. And an opportunity to take the ball closer than they have been so far in this game to the Halifax try line. Tackle made on the 20 by Spink. Rupert Yonkers takes the ball to within 15 metres of the Halifax line. Now they switch it back to the left hand side. The interception on from Black. Defence into attack. Nobody's going to catch him. And the scrum half was certainly made up for that error earlier on with an interception and an 80-metre foot race with nobody within 10 metres. And Ben Black, well, London Scholars must have getting a little bit excited there. They got so close to the Halifax line, but they were soon deflated with Black. Saw what was going on when Scholar switched it back to the left, picked the interception, said thank you very much, here we go. And this field players can catch him over that distance, as he proved last season with 2 or 3 length of the field tries. But great foresight from the scrum half, and it's Halifax 14, London Scholars 0. And I doubt whether Ben Black will get a better pass all season of some of his teammates. He's timed that to perfection. Sinking into the Scholars line. Danny Jones nearer to goal. And another 2 from the standoff. Halifax 16, London Scholars 0. About 23 minutes through the first half, and the plan is going according to script at the moment for Anthony Farrell. I think we'll be happy with his team's performance. And John Simpson, well, if they thought Hobson were a big man, they've now got to contend with John Simpson, who's about a foot bigger. And we'll run the ball defence all afternoon, given the opportunity. And here goes Wisner again for another 40-20, but the ball too far in field this time, forcing Ashley Tozer back, and the chase is there again from Halifax. And the first man there was Bunyan, assisted by Haley in the tackle, and Bunyan's there again, making it on the 20 with Ben Fisher. Well, conditions a problem for Stuart Singleton there, as he lost his footing on the 20. And another good tackle, Wisner in again. Noticeable that there's generally 2 and 3 men going in on the Halifax tackle, and they're making sure man and ball goes down and he's smothered. That's come off the back of the Halifax player, and unable to keep hold of the ball. London Broncos make the mistake. Number 7 Gareth Honor drops the ball, last tackle, which is why he was making the kick. So Halifax will have it on the turnover. Jones back inside to Bolts. Scholars into the prop and taking him down. It looks like Halifax may be losing. I think it's Ben Black that's going off to receive attention. It is, and Halifax losing the scrum half for the moment. Took an injury there. I think he's been taken off more as a precaution. Wisner and Halifax queuing up on that far side, but Adcroft smashed to the ground by Austin Agri, the number 2. Simpson driving the ball in. Halifax using that left hand side again. Good ball back inside from Larder. I think it's Anthony Blackwood that's on. Halifax have a penalty. It looks like Blackwood with the getting a facial, says the referee. Use to the elbow. Halifax will not try for the 2. John Simpson will give it to Pat Wisner, and Wisner will crash his way over from short range. Well, it's usually the half-back's a loose forward that's in the position there as the pivot to set the move up, but John Simpson, well, opted to pass inside, and where they normally have a forward, half back to a forward, it was a forward to half, but to a Wisner, who's the loose forward, and Wisner crashing over like a prop, taking the defender with him, and Halifax moving to the comfort zone with a fourth try. It's Halifax 20, London Scholars 0. Danny Jones needs the aid of the post, but it's on the right side. Halifax scored extended yet again with Danny Jones' third conversion. Halifax 22, London Scholars 0. Well, at 22-0 up, there is a possibility or a tendency for teams to relax. So Anthony Farrell, I'm sure, will be drilling it into his players. But there's still 15 minutes of this half to go and another 40 in the second. That Halifax must keep the composure and drill home the advantage as Wisner gets it away to Adcroft, unable to get away from the two defenders. Bolts, who's split the Scholars defence, dragging three men with him back over the London Scholars 40-metre line. Gibson to Jones. Jones tries to get it away. It's come off a Scholars player. Haley will pick it up, but will he give the first knock on? It was knocked down by a London player, but was he playing for the ball? Referee checking that with his touch judge, and I think it'll go in the favour of the London Scholars on that score, is it? No. Right decision from touch judge. First knock on was the London Broncos player going for the ball. Danny Jones has moved to scrum half, Pat Wisner to stand off, and James Bunyan drives the ball into the London Scholars defence. Halifax using that left hand side again, and then Larder turning back in. Wisner to Simpson. On the 20-metre line, Halifax pushing forward. Ben Fisher splits the defence, almost got the ball away, but there is a penalty to Halifax as Wisner was held back. And so Halifax will push again to that Scholars line, and I don't think they'll be going for the 2 when there's a potential 4 on offer. Simpson into 3. Wisner gets the ball away. Halifax made the mistake. Conditions playing the part, but Halifax seeming a bit tad overexcited there as they push towards the line. And that's a lack of composure on Halifax's part. Pushing again. Anthony Farrell want them to hammer home the advantage as much as they can. The Scholars once again trying to drag the ball out of the 20-metre area. And once again meeting stiff resistance from Halifax defence. Danny Jones didn't make the hit, but James Bunyan did. Not wrist against Oldham, had shoulder surgery. Although he said he was fit to play, wouldn't be risked. As Coleman gets the kick away, Gibson picks it up. But the chase this time good from the London Scholars. Sharif will look for a gap but won't find one. Jones to Simpson. Once again attracts 3, only needs 2 to put him down. But London defence doing well this time as Bunyan gets it away to Jones. Birchall on for Halifax. I'm just going to say the London Scholars defence looks a bit more solid, and there go Halifax over halfway, but once again they spill the ball, giving London Scholars easy possession. Bigger account. Not to the credit, Halifax are throwing the ball about, and it's a risky take in these conditions. The Scholars now have to contend with the sun in their eyes as it breaks through the clouds away to the left hand side over the famous Alexandra Palace. And the London Scholars to halfway, trying to put the move on, but only making 4 metres from that play as Halifax moving quickly in defence once again and give away another penalty. That's for Broncos penalty, this time opting for the tap and go. Birchall waits to with welcoming arms for the London Scholars runner and puts him to ground 18 metres out. Coleman turns the ball back inside for Richard Singleton, put down 12 metres away. One of the men you can actually see with the number on his back is the Scholars replacement Nathan Mischke, but his pass can't open anything up for the Scholars as he moves into acting half again, the closest the London Scholars have been on the last tackle. Coleman will put the kick through on the floor, but the ball will be lost off Wisner's fingers, who said he was facing his own post, I think, as he went for the ball, but the referee will give London the scrum and another 6 tackles. This is the most pressure by far that the London Scholars have put on the Halifax line. Halifax looking to keep it intact as the big centre Singleton comes in. Bunyan went for the intercept, but the pass didn't come out. And it's back again with the big centre, but he's held up over the line. So I think the third player will go back on the 10 metre line. Halifax really out of the blocks there. Stuart Singleton, not familiar with the rules obviously, as the referee tells him back to the 10. He wanted to play it 6 metres out. But once again, strong tackling from Spink and Birchall as the Scholars push forward. Scrum half Gareth Honor trying to push people out to create a bigger overlap on that far side. And almost a chance there for Nathan Mischke, brought down 5 metres away, chipped through on the floor, ball is loose. Scholars will get the ball back. Jamie Lee, the referee, said it's the last tackle, but I think there was Halifax hand played for that, and he could have quite easily given the London Scholars 6 more there. Adcroft shows the dummy, tries to run under the tackles from the London side. Ben Fisher takes it over the 20. Gibson goes from acting half and almost finds himself a gap, but relieves the pressure for Halifax with a mazy 20 metre run. Ball comes loose again. Scholars with possession. I think there was a punch thrown by Damien Gibson there. There was a London Scholars player went down, but I think it was an attempt to milk a penalty from the referee. Referee said get up and wave play on. As he got him wave play on, it was London Scholars that came up with the ball after Halifax had dropped it. And so the London side on the attack again, from significantly further out this time. But they're making inroads into that Halifax defence. It's not as just as solid as it was in the opening moments of this game. Halifax seem to be relaxing. Well, if they are, it's 5 minutes too early, because there's still 5 to half time and there's options here. But Haley picks it up, and if he had got away, there was acres of space in front of him. Spink gives it inside to Gibson. Gibson gets past one and gets over the 20, relieving the pressure for Halifax once again, and then gets it away to Sharif. Steps past one, steps away from two, and he's tackled by loose forward Troy O'Shea at the third attempt. Jason Bolt still driving the ball up to the Scholars line. Jones brings Spink back on the inside. Well, the Scholars defence seems to have got a little bit stronger the more they've got behind us. It's certainly improved, but not on that occasion. I think Andy Hobson again. Charging in, and he really is putting some weight behind those runs. Is Hobson pushing defenders back. Halifax get another penalty, and somebody's spoken out of turn. Pat Wisner goes for the tap, and here goes Hobson again, and this time there's 3 to stop him, and that seems the only effective method the London Scholars have of stopping the big Halifax prop, as Danny Jones skips, steps, gets past one. He's tackled by scrum half Gareth Honor. That'll be a penalty, and that should be a yellow card surely, but referee not seeing it like that as Wisner gets the ball out. Halifax get a couple of penalties late on, put pressure on the line, and that looks like Wisner, who's almost over for his second try. London defence just holding him up. Fisher's got over, has he, from acting half. London Scholar said it's a double movement. Referee says yes, I'll agree with you. And losing the temper again. Referee having to pull players apart there. Well, I'm sure the referee capable of making his own decisions without the assistance of the London Scholars team, but he agreed with their call of a double movement by the Halifax hooker, so the try will be denied on this occasion. And there's perhaps little time for the London Scholars to take the ball up to the other end of the field with about 2 minutes remaining. We've found it tough going in the first half. They've spent a lot of the first half trying to take the ball away from their own line. Rarely threatened that Halifax try line, just a couple of occasions. But the Halifax line remains intact for the moment anyway. And Halifax have fashioned 4 tries, which is give them a healthy lead at half time as Coleman's forced to kick again. There's not really anything in it as Sharif picks it up and will fancy the outside line and then drops the shoulder and comes back inside. Croft thought about the pass. Sharif from acting half. And London get the penalty, have they? Well, the referee is going to speak to somebody. I thought it was going to penalise the Halifax man then. Looked as though the play of the ball may have been too quick and hadn't been played properly. But it may be a third penalty in quick succession for Halifax, as Stuart Singleton concedes yet another penalty for the London Scholars. And this perhaps the last attack of this first half, as Halifax pour forward again towards that 10 metre line, and there's an injury there. I'm not sure who it is, possibly Chris Birchall, difficult to see from here. it's Andy Hobson. He's managed to get back to his knees. Well, he's run the ball up hard and he's played hard. This time he's taken a big hit as he's taken the ball in. It's gone down awkwardly. And he will be led away looking a little the worse for wear. I'm not sure of his injuries from here. It looks so he may have suffered an arm injury. Well, London get the possession at the scrum as Andy Hobson dropped the ball in the act of going down. And Austin Agri tries to drive the ball out and then he's driven back by the Halifax defence, who picked him up and dragged him back into his own 20. And that's a huge hit there. Once again, Halifax defence been very tough on the London Scholars, and once again they're relying on the big centre Singleton on that far side. The same result is that there's no way through the Halifax defence. Crossfield kick for Haley to field, but the ball's kicked on by the Scholars winger and the ball will go into touch. He needed the bounce, but there was no guarantee he was going to get it anyway, with Gibson coming across. Half-time hooter sounds into the sheds for some warm drinks, but a comfortable first half for Halifax despite mistakes creeping in. 4 tries, Haley, Sharif, Black and Wisner. Black the pick of the bunch with a full length run after an interception. Three conversions from Danny Jones. Halifax well in control at half time. It's Halifax 22, London Scholars 0. Referee about to signal the beginning of the second half of Halifax against London Scholars. Halifax with that so far comfortable 22 points to 0 lead as Sharif runs across the defence, 15 yards sideways and probably 2 forward. The Scholars get the second half underway. Halifax coach Anthony Farrell, who will have told Halifax about ball retention and trying to cut out the errors, but with the wind certainly blowing from right to left up here, I don't know what it's like on the field. Flags blowing in different directions. Well, perhaps Wisner's kick might be an indicator as it drops. Didn't seem to travel anywhere then. But it's once again put London back in their own quarter of the field. And they're just breaking over it. Well, they're certainly not throwing the towel in at the London Scholars, who, as I said, seem to improve as the first half commenced. We're looking to build on that in the second half. Halifax will be looking to keep a clean sheet, but also hammer home the advantage against the National League 2 side, who finished second bottom of their division last year, against some of the more established clubs like Hunslet and York. Barrow. Oh, Sharif's got a one-on-one, and Sharif's got the pace round the fullback, the opening Halifax wanted to the second half has arrived from Ricky Sharif. And there's an ambulance just arriving in the ground to the left hand side, and a doctor, which may or may not be for Andy Hobson, because he doesn't seem to have appeared for this second half. And could be on his way for a night's stay in hospital. Well, it looks so it's a head injury to Andy Hobson, according to Paul Dixon, who's so Ricky Sharif makes it 26-0. In the interest of watching Andy Hobson being taken to the ambulance, Sharif planted the ball down after a 60-metre run, beat the fullback quite easily. Danny Jones with a simple kick in front of the post, and normal service resumed early in the second half as Halifax lead extended to 28 points to 0. And Halifax pushing forward again. It's just the opening they needed to set themselves fast on the second half, as Jones kicks down behind the winger and the ball eludes the winger and goes into touch. So the Scholars once again pushed back into their own quarter of the field, although they'll get the ball at the scrum. Once again have to drag themselves away from their own try line. Try and use the short side with Austin Agre, who is powerful number 2, done some strong running in the first and the early stages of the second half. Not breached Halifax defence, but he's forced him to muscle up and work as the winger. And managed to make almost 30 metres this time of the Broncos, which is quite impressive up to the normal efforts. Sharif fancies a run again, but he's up against two powerful men in the centre, Singleton, who completed the tackle, and Agri was also there as well. Gibson, referee says it was a tackle around the shoulder. Jones turns the ball back inside. Halifax have runners, been able to capitalise. They go up towards that 40. Birchall getting up, looking a little shaken there, and he's called to the touchline for assistance. Jones runs the ball back. A great ball inside. Blackwood, who scored 2 last week, sets the ball up. Halifax puts to the line and brought down a metre away on the last tackle. A quick play, the ball could catch the Scholars out as they're coming back. Jones aims for the post, and Scholars forced to push it dead there as pressure was put on as the ball was bouncing awkwardly off Danny Jones' kick once again in the in-goal area. So a brief respite, and that's all it is for the London Scholars. They're forced to kick out, the drop out from under the post against the wind. And the result is the ball travels about 40 metres, and perhaps keeping it on the ground deliberately, knowing that the wind could actually carry it anywhere. Halifax will go back on the attack. Spink on the inside, gets the ball away to Wisner. He pushes the pass out to Blackwood. Scholars offside. Halifax will be looking for the tap again. Fisher plays it, and Spink has plenty of time there. Unloaded to Jones, who does well to get rid in the tackle. Gareth Greenwood out wide. Haley coming back inside. Tackle 5 metres away. There's a whole host of Scholars players making that tackle. Gibson couldn't escape the clutches, but got the ball away to Wisner. Wisner shows the ball, then runs into the pack again, still manages to get it away to Blackwood, who's using his power and his strength. Halifax get the ball back, but the referee has seen a knock on prior to that. So Halifax will still be putting the pressure on as they get the ball from the scrum on the 10 metre line. Wisner to Jones. Jones gets it away. Coleman went for it, lost it. Jones picks it up. Referee's waves play on. Jones tries to get on the inside. He's close to that touch line, but manages to stay in play. Spink being pushed back. Big effort in defence from the London Scholars there. On the Halifax second rower. Slow play the ball. Ball comes loose. Sloppy play again from Halifax. A lot of pressure on that London line with 3 sets of 6, but unable to post another 4 points. Should be expecting a little bit more out of so much possession near the opponent's line. But the Scholars will be allowed to run it back, not going for the kick to touch. Austin Agri once again fancied his chances with his power, and he's got him up to the 40 metre line. Singleton, the first runner, didn't take the pass. Gooley got it up to halfway. First time in this second half that the London Scholars have got into the Halifax half of the field. To the 40 metre line. Coleman looks for a way around the outside and doesn't find one. Gareth Greenwood ending that run. And the kick call from Sharif, who takes it cleanly, gets round one. And that's as far as it will go. The dancing feet has stopped after beat the first man. Gibson out to Blackwood, who will and has successfully worked his way inside from the touchline. Was very close when he took the ball. Andy Spink, who's been heavily involved for Halifax, squeezes it out the back door. Halifax not gaining anything though from that pass, as Wisner once again looks for a 40-20 over the winger. Well, he's touched the ball, so it's play on, and Sharif is putting pressure on him immediately as soon as he gets the ball, and Austin Agri is brought down. Played at the ball while it was in the air, played everybody on side. Fullback Callis trying to run across the defence, and has in fact lost ground in an effort to do so. So London once again find themselves bogged down in their own quarter of the field. And they seem to be taking the wrong options to the London team, going to this short side where they didn't have so many men, and off goes Sharif again. But the defence keep a close eye on him this time. And Halifax up through the middle. Fullback dropping off the tackle as Halifax push forward once again, 12 metres away. Gareth Greenwood at this moment is the cleanest man on the park for Halifax. And that's because he plays as a acting half. Jones out to Wisner back inside to Jason Bolts, who's still stood in the tackle, just can't get the pass away. Wisner runs at the line himself, had support screaming on his outside. Larder was the man looking for the pass there, I think. Well, that's a kick through, and Sharif didn't just get there. Well, he did, but he knocked the ball forward, says the referee. So the London Scholars winger Austin Agley once again. So the Scholars, another brief sortie into the Halifax half of the field. Only just over the 40, forced to the kick again. Sharif leaves it for Gibson, which is closes Gibson down. Sharif will run it this time. Bounces off the first tackler, can't get away from the second. Scholars offside again. Referee's just about even the penalty count up now, I think. As Halifax deposit the ball into touch on the far side of the field and resume on halfway with Jones to Simpson. Simpson looking to get up and play it quickly but can't. Oh, great ball to Blackwood from Wisner. Blackwood able to find the room that he did against Oldham a couple of weeks ago. But not easy anyway, carting around a couple of pound of mud on each boot as these players are doing. Certainly makes it tiring. Greenwood will now get a run at the line. Take the ball to within 5 metres. Jones shows the ball and steps and will get caught here unless somebody can get behind him, and they have done. And once again Halifax lose possession. Well, their own worst enemy. They've had pressure near the London line, failed to capitalise, and once again giving it back to the Scholars. Once again have to drag the ball away from their own try line, their own quarter of the field. That's a huge kick. Well, that's certainly going to be a 40-20 if it goes into touch, and it does. That is an awesome kick. A speculator, but no indication as the ball travelled in the air there that there's any wind at all out on the field. So the Scholars first real serious attack in this second half. Moving the ball out to the left hand side, Halifax showing resilience in defence 5 metres away from their own line, but the pressure not off yet. And Halifax not falling for the old dart from acting half trick. It won't come again. Coleman looks for a way through, and the only thing that's happened there is that the London Scholars now have more room to work in. Once again Halifax close it down. Last tackle, can London conjure something up? They tried to skid it off the foot, there's a knock on, and so London will get another chance from 10 metres out. Horrendous condition really, and getting worse by the minute. And Agre in off the wing, not as effective this time as Halifax defence watched him. They moved across, and that was the number 9 Pittman, fancied his chances. Scholars trying to put the move on. We're back to the right hand side. Ball goes to ground. Didn't see a knock on there. Agri takes the ball, but he's quickly closed down close to the touchline. Touch judging referee assistance there on decision whether a knock on may have occurred, and he said it didn't. It's the last tackle again. Coleman will slip one off the boot. It'll be picked up by Greenwood, who clears up the danger for Halifax on the 10 metre line. And Gibson trying to help his forwards out, earns himself a penalty. Well, I suspect there should have been a yellow card out now, as Hargrave does his best to keep it in. It was already out over the touchline when he jumped up to pound that ball down. Simpson screaming for the pass off the short ball, but the London defence watching him closely and moving in quickly. Jones around the back to Greenwood, can't escape the clutches, gets it away to Haley. Haley fancies it on the outside, cuts back in, and after a wobbly 10 minutes, Halifax post more points, and it's James Haley with his second try of the afternoon. The lead extends to 32 points to nil with James Haley's second. Halifax's 6th try, so a brace for both wingers this afternoon. After a fairly quiet spell and soaking up the pressure that London put on the Halifax line. Halifax it back virtually from their own line after giving a penalty away. Quick kick downfield, good yards made by Wisner. Jones continues in metronomic fashion, kicking over his 5th conversion of the afternoon to make it Halifax 34, London Scholars 0. Midway through the second half, and I suppose for the last 20 minutes in these conditions it's survival of the fittest, and the fittest should be Halifax under normal circumstances. But the Scholars did have a purple patch when they seemed to improve in the first half, unable to build on that, although they had good pressure on the Halifax line for 4 or 5 minutes, unable to turn it into points. They concede a penalty. Wiseman unable to find touch this time. Haggerty picks it up, takes it inside, and it takes 3 Halifax players to put the winger down. Well, mistake. Not surprisingly, the ball is very greasy, very slippy. Conditions the same underfoot, and one would suggest with the temperatures today probably bordering on freezing, and certainly a wind chill factor as well. The last 20 minutes ain't going to be anything spectacular. Got Halifax in a unassailable lead now, 34 points to 0. Difficult to see where London Scholars are going to get a 4-pointer, let alone 34 points. But that doesn't mean Halifax should rest on the laurels, as London Scholars get another penalty. Halifax come up with the ball, so the pressure limited from the Scholars as Hadcroft picks up for Halifax on what looked like a ball that went possibly forward, as Hadcroft has words with the London hooker, Kurt Pittman. Well, they can't win the rugby. The London boys fancy the fight. Well, the jury sitting and debating in the centre of the field on what went on. I don't think there was anything much really, but several bodies in there. Ricky Sharif, one of the first ones in to pull players apart. Referee reaching for the pocket for somebody. And it is scrum half Gareth Honor, who will spend 10 minutes in the sin bin. Halifax will get the penalty as the referee puts the cards back in the pocket and then stops the clock to have words with the captains. Well, there's not been much to talk about in the way of violence this afternoon. Been a couple of bust-ups and one or two players having words, but nothing extremely significant, so I can't see the reason that Jamie Lee can't just say let's get on with it and behave yourself a bit. But and Halifax, I think Halifax, have they another man going off, or is it a No, it's a Broncos player, it's a London Scholars player. And I certainly can't see how the referee can warrant this length of conversation over what's gone on. And finally, the penalty's given after all that because a punch has been thrown and Wisner fails to reach touch again. And the winger, Agri, shouldered by Greenwood into two other defenders. Halifax once again, they just seem to be, I don't say slowing down, but they giving possession away. That's twice now that Pat Wisner's fails to reach touch. And you can only respect the possession if you've actually got it. And they're at it again. Somebody's spoken out of turn, somebody's thrown a bit of a punch, and there's another man in the bin for 10 minutes. And it's former Halifax man Jermaine Coleman. Well, that's not going to do London Scholars cause any good. 34-0 down against 13. Can Halifax capitalise now against the 11 men of London for the next 10 minutes? As Wisner finally gets one into touch with ironic cheers from the Halifax supporters who, had it not been for them today, the ground would have been extremely empty. 5 coaches and several cars making their way down to the M1, or down the M1 to this stadium. And another mistake once again, although I think Damien Gibson can put that one down to conditions, because the pitch really has cut up now, and it really didn't look too bad prior to the start of this game, but the water coming through, the pitch has obviously held it underneath. And I think the London Scholars will just be looking to play the time out a bit for the next 10 minutes, because they're going to struggle to create an overlap when the 2 men down, that is for sure. But there is the whole saying that there's more space for people to run in when you're a player or 2 players down, but not the case with the London Scholars there, as they cough up possession. Adcroft goes from acting half, takes the ball over the 20, and Halifax will be happy to see the return of Ben Black for the remains the ball inside. Once again it goes to ground, but this time it goes in the right direction for Halifax, back towards the post. Ben Black, good ball to Wisner. Wisner managing to pass it while he's on the ground. Simpson almost getting out of the tackle and getting over the line. Last one. Halifax have men queuing up both sides. Black kicks through on the floor, and it's picked up by number 3 Stuart Singleton, the London Scholars captain. Referee seen a knock on. The end of this match becomes a little bit herestrewn and tedious now, really. About 10 minutes left. Wisner, long ball out wide to Adcroft, a bit wayward. Adcroft had to stretch for it. By the time he took the ball in, he was already marked. As Sharif goes down the short side, Sharif's off again. Sharif for the hat-trick, but 3 men. Great try from Sharif, fancied himself down the short side. London Scholars had left it open for him, nobody closed it down. That perhaps a sign of inexperience, and he turned back inside and just managed to claw his way over the line and put some semblance of normality back into this game. Halifax should really be scoring at 13 against 11, taking a couple of minutes to do so, but Sharif completes his hat-trick, and with less than 10 minutes probably completes the afternoon's work for Halifax, who should have won by more and probably would have done had the conditions been more favourable and they're not being made so many errors. but as it is, they've come down, the job's done, there's 2 points in the bag, and Anthony Farrell has seen more of his fringe players being able to perform in the first team. Injuries to Jamie Bloom, Dean Lawford, Ryan MacDonald and Chris Morley affected his plans during the week, as he let the players, well, especially Lawford and MacDonald and Morley, have all the time they wanted to get themselves fit. Unfortunately didn't pass through, but the players that have been put in haven't let the coach down, including this man Danny Jones, who slots over his 6th conversion of the afternoon to the 7th try. Only missed one, and that wasn't the easiest, but kicked him from everywhere, and that has brought up the 40 points for Halifax. Halifax 40, London Scholars 0. Coleman with a fairly long kick to the 10, probably as long as he can get it under these conditions. Sharif's off again. Well, he's run about 40 metres already. Unfortunately, he's only gone about 15 forward, and they've beaten about 6 men in the process. And Ben Black has added to the Halifax error count once again. Oh, Damien Gibson's headed off to the warmth of the showers, gets in there first. His teammates are left to finish up the job, with Danny Jones dropping to full-back. And London Scholars, another assault on this Halifax line, still down to 11 men, of course. So somebody will have to do twice as much work for the London side. Almost dropping the ball there. There seems to be a bit of confusion. The move almost broke down. Ball goes to ground. London still 15 metres away. Ben Black is out of the blocks, and Jones picks that up well on the bounce near the Halifax line. One of the few places there's actually some grass left. Halifax pushing forward, London with 11 men looking a bit tired as Halifax make the metre. Spinks bounces off 2, then carries the ball forward, and good yards for Halifax. And then Scholars defence. Black kicks over the top, holds on the bounce, and Black will get it back. Had he been able to keep hold of it. London coming forward again. We're finding it so difficult when they've well, they're going to be restored to 12 men very shortly, I think. The winger Agri once again really is a powerful character, coming inside and doing the work of the forwards, and could probably find himself a makeshift second rower in this team by the end of the season. Certainly has a good work rate as Jones picks it up again, and then he's dropped to the ground by the London Scholars defence. Referee blown his whistle. Seen a knock on, and London will get possession for what should be, or what hopefully is, the last 6 tackles of this game. All about 2 minutes, but we did of course have the stoppage while the referee handed out the rules after the punch had been thrown. Line almost breached by Coleman there. Halifax needing to hang on. Desperate attacking from London, desperate defending from Halifax, and there's a knock on there, so that will just about break the Scholars' hearts. It looks as though now it's too late for them to post any points on the board, so a fairly satisfying afternoon's work in defence for Anthony Farrell. Not really much to soak up in London pressure, but when they have pressed, Halifax have been up to the task, and that was probably the most important of their attacks and the strongest run towards the line, but yielded nothing once again for London Scholars, as Halifax defence held firm on their own line and will bring the ball away. And I think we'll be glad to hear the final hooter and put this game to bed as Black gets it away. Ball comes off Haley and goes into touch. So it'll be a London putting at the scrum. Well, maybe it wouldn't have been too late as the ball comes loose. Halifax will gladly pick it up after the mistake. At it again in the middle of the field. Well, sent 2 men to the sin bin, but obviously the London Scholars haven't got the message. It's I think the London number 14 is weighing at Parallon. Well, here we'll have another 5-minute discussion between the officials. London the offenders again, and Halifax with Johnny Simpson stops instantly at the tackle. Hooter sounds for the end of the match, a match in which Halifax never really looked in any serious danger, any threat that London posed. Halifax sussed it out. Halifax managed to almost double the first half score, 22 points to 0 up, and looked a bit sloppy. They made far too many errors in the second half, and cold, damp, wet, windy conditions, but tries in the second half from Sharif with 2 completing his hat-trick, another one for Haley, and 3 conversions. Pretty good afternoon's work for Danny Jones in the kicking role, but nothing to write home about. Halifax have done the job in the capital and rattled up 40 points in the process. Halifax 40, London Scholars 0.